DMT, dimethyltryptamine, is a naturally occurring compound and can be found in thousands of different plant species, the most common ones being the acacia, the mimosa, and the viridis. It is also found in citrus fruits and some animals like the Colorado river toad. DMT is also the only psychedelic that we produce naturally. Our brains produce a low amount of it as we sleep, which is essentially how we dream. DMT is primarily smoked and snorted. Many people also take it orally, but in that case, DMT needs to be mixed with an MAOI, which is a monoamine oxidase inhibitor. It's a mood regulator that stops serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine from being metabolized. This allows DMT to take effect, and it is more commonly known as the drink ayahuasca. DMT has a rich history. It's been used by humans seemingly since the beginning of time. In the past, it was used by many ancient religions and rituals. DMT played a huge role in the founding of many ancient religions that came about after someone was exposed to DMT and thought they were speaking to a higher entity. In terms of physical evidence, they recently found DMT in the pouch of a dead shaman that's been dated to being 1,000 years old. When it comes to modern scientists, it was first discovered in the 1930s, but it took until 1956 for a chemist named Stephen Sazra to make a full report on DMT's hallucinogenic effects. DMT can be easily extracted from plants using a combination of vinegar, water, sodium hydroxide, and naphtha gas. DMT is an agonist, meaning that it activates the receptors it binds to. It primarily binds to serotonin receptors, like 5-HT1A, which is where a lot of the psychedelic effects come from. 5-HT2A, which is where we think is responsible for DMT's emotional effects, and more recently, we've discovered that DMT also binds to sigma-1 and TAR1 receptors, which we think is responsible for DMT's effect on mood and cognitive functioning. When it comes to DMT, a microdose would be 5 to 10 milligrams, a low dose would be 10 to 20 milligrams, and a medium dose would be 20 to 40 milligrams, and a strong dose would be 40 to 60 milligrams. I would not advise taking a strong dose. When smoked, a DMT trip usually begins after 15 seconds, and it takes a minute for the full effect to kick in. The entire trip typically lasts 15 to 30 minutes, and a lot of users describe it as right when the dream starts to get good, they're sent back to Earth. When someone takes DMT orally, it usually takes 30 to 45 minutes to feel the effects, and the entire trip lasts 3 to 4 hours, with the highest point being between 1 to 2 hours into the trip. Compared to other psychedelics, like LSD, our bodies don't develop a tolerance for DMT, so there's no need to constantly take more to receive the same effect. DMT isn't known to be addictive, but there have been some rare cases where people might get addicted to the trip itself and the feelings that the DMT produces. Like most substances, if taken too often, especially in the developing mind, people younger than 25 years old, it can change the way their brains function and cause some serious damage. While DMT isn't typically addictive, there are still some risks and side effects involved, and like every drug, there are downsides. DMT can cause someone to have an increased heart rate, a feeling of tightness in the chest, dizziness, an increased amount of serotonin that can cause high blood pressure, confusion, agitation, and a headache. Also, while someone's on DMT, they look like they're in some kind of trance with their pupils dilating and their eyes moving around in like a patterned rhythm. If someone takes too high of a dose, it can cause seizures, respiratory arrest, and in the worst cases, a coma. And taking DMT orally can cause people to be nauseous, have diarrhea, and vomit. The psychoactive effects of DMT are what's really astounding. For starters, in small doses, it can cause people to be in a much better mood, reducing anxiety and depression. But if someone takes a regular dose, that's where the really cool effects are found. DMT can cause people to look at their life and their problems differently, since it removes their ego from the equation. It's like when you're out of your body and can see things clearly for how they actually are. It can also cause some people to have a near-death scary experience, which is called a bad trip. But also, and this is why it interests me a lot of people who've taken DMT talk about how they visited different worlds and dimensions, and that they've even talked to aliens, which are known by a lot of them as machine elves. Sometimes they've been described looking like court jesters. These entities talk to them and give them advice, essentially like advice for the problems they're having, and have also been known to help people find out what the root of their problems are. Also, the visuals are stunning. Think of a really cool kaleidoscope with bright, vivid colors. I'm not big on drugs, but it's always what's fascinated me about DMT, finding out whether or not these entities are a figment of our imagination, or if our brains are actually being transported to these other dimensions and are able to talk to these entities. The weird thing is, a ton of people who have done DMT describe seeing the exact same entities. So what are they? Maybe we'll figure that out at some point in the future, once we've done more experiments. Sadly, due mostly to the government making DMT illegal back in the 1970s as a part of the war on drugs, there was a long period of time where there was very little research being done on DMT, but that's changed. And now, they found many clinical uses for DMT, especially when paired with a therapist. They found that it can be helpful in cases where people suffer from PTSD and clinical depression. We're still learning a lot about DMT and how it works, but nowadays, many states have decriminalized it, and some, like Colorado, have even legalized it. Also, thanks in large part to the efforts of Joe Rogan, a popular podcaster, he's given scientists who study DMT and make it their life's work a place to get their ideas across to tens of millions of people, changing the way it's viewed in the broader society. Personally, I believe it's a substance that will be as normal as cannabis in around 15 years, and people can go to a special therapist and take DMT while being guided, resulting in a new form of therapy that can potentially change the way these people are treated and make their lives a lot better. And here are the 2 works cited pages. I just wanted to say thanks so much for this amazing semester. I really learned a lot, and I'm really happy I took this class.